we're just dying of the Jesus and the white knighting is in fact completely accurately portrayed.
You Adam Smith to death.
But I'd say the Southern Americans get it somewhat because the Presbyterian Adam Smithian ministers carried it into my world, right? It's that we're Presbyterian, but we're Southern Presbyterian, and therefore we do know how to like avoid at absolutely all costs being embarrassed, having failing in your social performance, not being a good hostess, all of that, right? It's like they're exquisite rules that are slightly different from the British, so they get upset with us maybe.
I have to make comparisons, although it's difficult because I grew up in migrant communities, so I think I'm socially retarded. In many ways I think I am, because I had to adjust to different rules all the time, and the people that I grew up with didn't have those same kind of passive aggressive ways of communicating. They were blunt. I'm not really sure if that's because all Greeks are blunt, but those particular generations of Greeks were blunt because they had to be, because they were dealing with second language acquisition and trying not to assimilate into Anglo culture as well. Like they really did not want to become Anglos. They had Greek schools. Kids went to learn Greek at Greek schools after they'd been to Greek schools, like it was, then there wasn't a lot of English around at the time. So yeah, maybe that's contributed to it. But yeah, I'm used to more forceful and honest appraisals of people's behavior and instant feedback for that.
Well, so you would take Inigo Montoya's technique as approved.
Oh yeah, that's the best. I posted that. I had to. I found it, and I was like,
this is beautiful. So the basic level of networking, right? Networking 101. We say Inigo's Guide to Networking Success, and of course we use the approved phrase. Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. And it being that he's Spanish, right? He has great courtesy, and he has everything appropriately marked for you. So first, polite greeting. Hello. Give your name. My name is Inigo Montoya. Relevant personal link. So establish some kind of relationship. You killed my father. Okay. Manage expectations.
That's the best.
Prepare to die. Right.
It's not going to get better for you.
Well,
and he's very lovable. See, you don't shame that. That's very lovable. He's very straightforward.
He's also Spanish,
man, too.
If he's Spanish, he's probably also Catholic. Though we're not really going with that because it's this fairy tale version of something or other that's.
Yeah, but he's still Catholic.
He's still got to be Catholic, right? Well, are we going to be saved by Catholicism?
Everybody's gonna spurg because they'll be like, "You're proposing we're gonna get saved by another ism." So it sounds like we're proposing yet another football team or an ideological solution to everything.
Fair.
Which we are not. This is the chattering that I can already hear erupt amongst the Protestant e-duchies. But it's not an ism that we're proposing as much as it is a return to iconography within a liturgical context, which is, to me, Catholic, which has a flow-on effect in how we deal with the rest of life, just like people programming AI.
Do we have not a sort of corresponding difficulty in the Catholic context of what it means to behave like Christians, or so where are we getting these norms of behavior? What would Jesus do, right? Here's the view from the cross, and if we're going to get to that liturgical place, maybe we have to get there. But if we can go into a different version of looking at Jesus's behavior, where would we go? And I did this after teaching you all how to blow your nose last week. Got curious about where that came from. Here he is in a 1910 foundation, Saint Jean-Baptiste de La Salle. Now, when I was last week reading his very long passage on how to blow your nose, in great detail. And, if you're children, you need to learn these details. Did not appreciate that, one, it was written by a saint. So there you go. And two, it's written by a very interesting saint who founded schools for children. So this guy should be right up there with our absolute heroes in the Christian world, because he was in fact born an aristocrat, but is recognized as a saint because of his many gifts that he gave to Christianity. One was the Institute of the Brothers of the Christian Schools. It's a massive worldwide order of Christian lay education. So going back to our earlier picture with Jesus surrounded by the children of the world, La Salle actually did it. He didn't just paint a picture and envision himself as teaching all the children of the world. The La Salle order has schools, and if you look up on the Wikipedia entry, it's very impressive. They're all over Africa, they're all over Asia, they're all over oh yes, even the United States. And there's one in Chicago, and I got down the rabbit hole on this one. Got it. Our mayors before they were Lori Lightfoot, right? The Dailies apparently all went to this school because it's a Catholic school. Yes, so maybe there's hope. Maybe there's actually hope for finding a Christian civilization. It's curious, right? His rules were first published in 1703. The one I was showing you is a 1708 printing, but you can find the full French version on Wikipedia, on Google Books. I was looking at I've got an English translation that was more recently made by Brothers of the Institute, right? The Lasallian sources. So here it's translated from the 1703 edition, 1990, right? This little handbook on Christian behavior, how to be, what do they translate it as? The rules of Christian decorum and civility. So it's not sentiment, it's actually civility. So we want to be civilized, we're going to live by these rules. Went through 45 editions through 1875. It sort of became the handbook of how to behave like a Christian for Catholics in the same period in which we were talking about the problem with the white 90 Jesus developing in Victorian England, right? So we're looking at exact contemporaries.
So it's the same feeling across the denominational chasm. It seems like everybody has the same anxiety.
Yeah, like civilized behavior, and that's why it was in Norbert Elias's book, because it's like climax of these etiquette handbooks, and then you have it's published in 1703, reprinted throughout the 17th, the 18th, and 19th centuries, still potentially, I guess, used. I mean, this translation I've got was Lasallian publication, sponsored by the Regional Conference of Christian Brothers of the United States of America in Toronto, Canada. The editorial board is all brothers. Translators were brother. I'm assuming that means they're teachers in these schools, right? Lasallian publication, sponsored by the Regional Conference of Christian Brothers of the United States of America and of Toronto, Canada. Lasallian publications will produce volumes on the life, writings, and work of Jean-Baptiste de La Salle, founder of the Brothers of the Christian Schools, and on the early history of the brothers. So it is actually, just like the English were worried in the 19th century about how to teach children to behave like Christians. We have the Lasallian Christian Brothers trying to set up all these schools, and to say that these, I mean, I find it embarrassing, right? Because I'm a new Catholic. I'm not necessarily grown up in all these schools. That our concentration is often on the Jesuits as the great schoolmasters of Catholicism, but they're teaching mainly at the university level, in my imagination. I mean, I know all these Jesuit universities, right? Loyola in Chicago, or Loyola everywhere, right? That those are universities, whereas these schools, like the La Salle school here, is a high school. So people are going to presumably learn how to behave like Christians in these schools.
Presumably.
Well, and then you're saying how much, how do we behave like Christians? Can we disarticulate this? Remember, we're making fun of Adam Smith Morning about being shamed all the time, right? If you're shamed, then you're not lovely, and then you're just shamed, right? He doesn't set it up as, he sets it up as a theory of moral sentiments, and that morality dissociated from religion necessarily. Mel says, Saint Jean Baptiste, pray for us. Yes.
So,
I've not grown up with this handbook, but I skimmed through it. I know how to blow my nose now, which I didn't do because I didn't have it didn't keep my handkerchief. What I realized in looking through the translation was it's not really Christian for the most part, or
mm,
it's worrying about things that I think this is, we're in this problem of um like daily behavior with each other in our e-duchy context, or in our, like, what does it mean to be Christ, like what does it mean to behave? And the rules of Christian decorum and civility begin with part one: the modesty you must show in your deportment and in the care of the various parts of your body, which is why we had the blowing your nose section, right? It's like, deportment and care of your head, ears, hair, face, forehead, eyebrows, and cheeks, eyes and glances, the nose and the manner of blowing your nose and sneezing, the mouth, lips, and teeth, speech and pronunciation, yawning, spitting, and coughing, like the back, shoulders, arms, and elbows, hands, fingers, and nails, the parts of the body that must be covered, the knees, legs, and feet. All of these deportment, right, actually physically, I mean, there's an incarnate element beautifully to it. Yeah, if you wish to have a distinguished appearance and to be esteemed because of the modesty that marks you as a wise and well-behaved person. Remember, this is for boys in school. You must learn to control your body in the way prescribed by nature or by custom. You must avoid, for this reason, several defects in the way you carry yourself. The first of these defects, which is an affectation and a constraint, makes you appear awkward. This is entirely opposed to decorum and to the norms of modesty. You must also avoid the kind of negligent attitude that betrays slovenliness and indolence in your conduct, and that would expose you to contempt because it indicates a meanness of spirit, as well as low birth and poor education. You ought also to be very careful not to let anything flighty appear in your bearing, for this might indicate you are frivolous. If your mind is naturally flighty and heedless, and if you wish to avoid falling into this defect or to correct yourself of it, you must pay attention not to move a single part of your body without attention to what you're doing, and to move only with due restraint.
I'm out.
Well, I realize I've been flailing around in this episode a lot. I'm clearly, it's like, this makes me not Christian. If your temperament is fiery and hasty, you must watch over yourself carefully. Never act without great moderation. Always think before doing anything, and keep your body as much as possible tranquil and steady. Although you ought not to cultivate any artificial poses, you must nonetheless learn to control all your movements and to regulate properly the deportment of all parts of your body. This is something that must be carefully taught to children. You realize, yes, if you grew up with this.
Oh my God, this is so triggering. The more you read this, the more I want to move.
I'm going to keep going to see what she does. Yeah.
No, don't. I would have failed. No deportment whatsoever.
That's where this section is where the blowing your nose thing came from. It's all about, I mean, I think there's, you have to hold your head proper manner. But things like, he said, okay, I'll keep reading. This is layered down in the same section. In a person's deportment, there must always be something sedate, even majestic. You ought to take care, however, that there is nothing in this to suggest pride or arrogance of spirit, for such attitudes greatly displease everyone. What will produce this sedateness is the simple modesty and wisdom that as a Christian you display in all your conduct. You are truly of noble birth, which should give you a clue here, right? For you belong to Jesus Christ and are a child of God, the Supreme Being. Hence, in your exterior, there ought to be nothing vulgar. Everything in you ought to denote a certain air of nobility and greatness, a reflection of the power and majesty of God, whom you serve and who gave you being. This dignified appearance ought not to flow from arrogance or lead you to prefer yourself to others. Every Christian wishing to act according to the laws of the gospel ought to show honor and respect to all others, considering them as children of God and brothers of Jesus Christ, and himself as one burdened with sin, for which he must constantly humble himself, placing himself beneath everyone else.
My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
We will have to practice our introductions to manage expectations.